For countless generations, Robert Montague Renfield has faithfully served as the devoted assistant to the infamous Count Dracula. His role has been to secure a steady supply of unsuspecting victims for his dark master to feed upon. However, with the weight of his misdeeds growing heavier on his conscience, Renfield now yearns for a fresh start in life, free from the shackles of his malevolent past. Welcome, folks, to the one and only Rapid Movie Recap. Do us a solid and hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and flick on those notifications like the true patriot you are. Never miss our delightful banter. Enable those subtitles with a quick tap on CC. And hey, we know you just can't resist. Check out our Ultra merchandise down below. Your support keeps us going forever. The film begins in a dimly lit room where a support group for survivors of abusive relationships is taking place. Among the participants is a somber, middle-aged man named Robert Montague Renfield. As the group members share their experiences, Renfield starts to narrate his own story, transporting the audience to a different era. Centuries earlier, Renfield was a promising young lawyer on the cusp of sealing a deal with a mysterious count. This deal, he believed, would secure the prosperity of his family for generations to come. Unbeknownst to Renfield, the enigmatic count was none other than the infamous Prince of Darkness, Dracula himself. Over time, Renfield proved himself to be an invaluable assistant to Dracula. In return, Dracula transformed him into his familiar, bestowing upon Renfield the gifts of immortality, super strength, and supernatural speed, powers that grew stronger with the consumption of insects. As the years went by, vampire hunters frequently targeted Dracula in their quest to rid the world of evil. Fearing the consequences of Dracula's demise, the Count convinced Renfield that he would face imprisonment for aiding and abetting a monster. In one harrowing scene, Renfield is shown shattering a protective salt ring, enabling Dracula to morph into smoke and gruesomely disintegrate a priest. The other hunter, however, manages to expose Dracula to sunlight, causing the vampire to catch fire. In a desperate attempt to save his master, Renfield extinguishes the flames, inadvertently killing the hunter in the process. To avoid further encounters with hunters, Dracula and Renfield are forced to relocate frequently. They eventually find themselves in New Orleans, where they plan to lie low until Dracula regains his full power. Over the centuries, Renfield's role as the provider of fresh victims for Dracula has left him physically and emotionally drained, struggling with the weight of his immortal servitude. During one of the support group meetings, a woman named Caitlin shares her story about her drug-addicted boyfriend, Mitch, and the dangerous lifestyle he leads. This gives Renfield an idea. Instead of offering innocent victims to Dracula, he could present criminals as a means to appease his master's insatiable appetite. He believes that this would somewhat alleviate the guilt that has been gnawing at him for centuries. Renfield tracks down Mitch and his gang to a warehouse, where he manages to incapacitate two of the henchmen. However, before he can apprehend Mitch, a notorious hitman called Apache Joe kills him. In the ensuing altercation, Joe slashes Renfield across the abdomen, but Renfield quickly consumes a bug, harnessing its power to retaliate. He lands a superhuman punch that sends Joe's head flying off his shoulders and crashing into the car of a local crime boss, Teddy Lobo. Fearing for his life, Teddy hastily flees the chaotic scene. Meanwhile, Officer Rebecca Quincy and her partner Chris are conducting routine drunk driving checks when Teddy's car speeds past them. Rebecca immediately recognizes the notorious gangster and, aware that his car is filled with illegal narcotics, decides to pursue him. As Teddy tries to make his escape, Rebecca shoots out his tires, forcing him to abandon his car and flee on foot. In a swift move, she throws her baton at Teddy's head, successfully knocking him out. However, due to the Lobos gang's influence and resources, they manage to secure an excellent lawyer for Teddy, preventing him from revealing any information about the criminal empire. The case against the Lobos is deeply personal for Rebecca, as they were responsible for the murder of her father, a highly respected police captain. Her sister Kate, an FBI agent also determined to bring the Lobos to justice, reminds Rebecca of the importance of remaining professional and not letting their emotions cloud their judgment. Renfield apprehensively brings the bodies of Mitch's friends and Joe's headless corpse to a severely weakened and decaying Dracula. However, the vampire lord rejects the offerings, scoffing at their drug-addled state. Dracula insists that Renfield provide him with more innocent victims, such as nuns or cheerleaders. To emphasize his demand, Dracula slashes Renfield at the same spot where Joe had cut him earlier, almost disemboweling him before offering him some of his own blood, which possesses healing properties. Meanwhile, Teddy reunites with his mother, Bella, the ruthless leader of the Lobos gang. She urges Teddy to eliminate Rebecca before the determined officer can dismantle their criminal empire. Reluctantly, Renfield visits a nearby restaurant to scout for potential victims. Coincidentally, Rebecca and Chris also arrive at the same eatery, having discovered a pen at a crime scene, which Renfield had used to stab Joe, that originated from there. As fate would have it, Teddy and his fellow Lobos henchmen show up with the intent of assassinating Rebecca. A chaotic gunfight ensues, and Teddy corners Rebecca, threatening her at gunpoint. Defiant, Rebecca challenges Teddy to shoot her, taunting him about his inexperience with firearms. Seizing the opportunity, Renfield consumes a fly and lunges at Teddy, allowing Rebecca to fight back. Displaying his supernatural strength, Renfield dismembers and impales the Lobos gang members with forks, eliminating all of them except for Teddy, who narrowly escapes. Grateful for his assistance, Rebecca thanks Renfield, and he finds himself captivated by her courage. Upon returning to his lair, Renfield finds that Dracula has managed to claim a few victims, slightly restoring his normal form. Dracula reveals his grand plan to dominate the world once he regains his full power, intending to create an army of familiars to serve him. Feeling conflicted, Renfield attends another group session where he discusses his complicated relationship with Dracula, referring to him as his boss. The group members encourage Renfield to take control of his life and distance himself from Dracula. They suggest that he find his own apartment and pursue his own happiness, independent of the Dark Lord's influence. Rebecca collects witness testimonies from those present at the restaurant shootout, but she is wary of the corrupt cops on the force who are on the Lobos payroll and have been tampering with evidence. Renfield arrives to give his testimony, bringing a bouquet of flowers for Rebecca as a token of gratitude. Later, Rebecca hands over the bloodstained pen to her sister Kate for evidence processing. In response, Bella orders Teddy and the remaining Lobos to target Renfield. They track him down to the lair, where Dracula feasts on all of them except Teddy. Upon learning that Teddy is after Renfield, Dracula becomes furious, feeling betrayed by his loyal assistant. Dracula confronts Renfield at his new apartment, gaining entry due to the presence of a welcome mat outside the door. He berates Renfield for abandoning him and seeking independence. Dracula also accuses Renfield of being the true monster for leaving his wife and daughter to serve him. Desperate, Renfield attempts to apply advice from a self-help book he received at the support group, but Dracula snatches it away, discovering the location of the church where the group meets. Renfield chases after him in a panic. Upon reaching the church, Renfield tries to warn the group members and help them evacuate, but as Dracula arrives, group leader Mark unwittingly invites him inside. Dracula reveals his true identity and proceeds to slaughter the attendees, feeding on their blood. He taunts Renfield before departing. Moments later, Rebecca and Chris arrive at the scene, and they arrest Renfield, believing he is responsible for the carnage. While Rebecca is escorting Renfield in handcuffs, several police cars arrive, accompanied by Bella and the Lobos gang. This confirms Rebecca's suspicions about the corrupt officers, including Chris and Captain Browning, who are colluding with criminals. Browning tries to persuade Rebecca to join their ranks, but she refuses. In a daring move, she shoots a nearby transformer to create a diversion, allowing her and Renfield to escape. Rebecca sustains a gunshot wound to her shoulder but manages to get away with Renfield. Seeking a safe place to hide, Renfield brings Rebecca to his apartment. He chooses to remain handcuffed to gain her trust and confesses that he has served Dracula for centuries. During their conversation, Rebecca receives a call from Kate, who reveals that the DNA on the pen is linked to murders worldwide, spanning decades. As Renfield and Rebecca prepare to leave the apartment, a SWAT team composed of corrupt officers descends upon the building, intending to capture them. Renfield consumes ants to gain power and single-handedly decimates the cops, employing brutal tactics such as tearing them apart, crushing heads, ripping off faces, and even impaling two men with severed limbs. Though horrified, Rebecca is grateful to be saved. In the meantime, Dracula decides to ally with Teddy and the Lobos gang, believing their combined forces will help him build the army necessary for his plans of global domination. Teddy introduces Dracula to his mother Bella, and to demonstrate his power, Dracula beheads Brownie in front of her. Bella is both impressed and intrigued by the vampire lord. Renfield and Rebecca find themselves in a public space where Renfield shares his past regrets, particularly leaving his wife and daughter behind in pursuit of personal gain. At that moment, Dracula taunts Renfield through telepathic communication. Rebecca attempts to call Kate for assistance, only for Bella to answer the phone instead. Bella informs Rebecca that they have captured Kate, forcing Rebecca and Renfield to arm themselves and prepare for a final confrontation against Dracula and the Lobos gang. Renfield and Rebecca arrive at the Lobos headquarters, only to discover that Teddy and the other gang members have been turned into powerful familiars by Dracula. While Rebecca hurries to find Kate, Renfield engages in a fierce battle against the Lobos, eventually defeating all of them, leaving only Teddy standing. Despite Teddy's arrogance about his newfound powers, Renfield warns him that it's a curse. As Teddy nearly overpowers Renfield, he manages to consume a bug, regaining his strength. He delivers a powerful kick to Teddy, causing him to spew blood and die a violent death. Upon finding Kate, Rebecca is devastated to learn she has been brutally beaten to death by the Lobos. Dracula tries to manipulate Rebecca into joining him by offering to resurrect Kate with his blood. Renfield arrives just in time to witness the scene. Though Rebecca appears to consider the proposition, she uses the opportunity to expose Dracula to sunlight by opening the blinds. Dracula escapes by transforming into bats and fleeing. Renfield and Rebecca catch up to Dracula, who knocks Renfield unconscious and attempts to kill Rebecca. However, she manages to shoot Dracula in the foot, causing him to bleed on Renfield, giving him the energy boost he needs. Renfield retaliates by ripping out Dracula's fangs and crushing his face. Rebecca creates a ring of cocaine and recites an incantation to trap Dracula. The duo then brutally beat him before tearing him apart and disposing of his remains in cement, which they throw into a sewer. Using Dracula's blood, Renfield and Rebecca bring Kate back to life. The sisters arrest Bella, feeling they have finally avenged their father's death and made him proud. Renfield later uses Dracula's blood to resurrect the members of the support group, who express gratitude but are also traumatized by the experience of death. Now close friends, Renfield and Rebecca embark on new chapters in their lives, with Renfield finally embracing his freedom as an independent man. Be sure to give a shout out to the creators and artists by catching the full flick at the link down in the description. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride, and don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe for more rapid movie recap.